Why does the world seem to be an endless arena of suffering, where every fleeting joy is but the prelude to greater despair? Are we, as conscious beings, condemned to witness and endure a ceaseless struggle that serves no higher purpose? The world, as it stands before us, is a stage set for suffering. Existence itself is marked by a relentless striving, an unquenchable thirst that defines the essence of life. Every creature, from the smallest insect to the most sophisticated human mind, is ruled by an insatiable will, a force that compels us to chase after desires that, when fulfilled, leave us empty and, when thwarted, bring us misery. Such is the paradox of life, that its very essence is suffering, its movement a perpetual torment. To truly grasp the depth of this predicament, one must step beyond the distractions of daily existence and confront the grim reality of what it means to live. From the moment we are born, we are thrust into a world where pain reigns supreme. Hunger gnaws at us, disease erodes us, death waits patiently for all. Every pleasure we savor is borrowed time, overshadowed by the inevitability of its end. To be alive is to be caught in the inescapable cycle of need, longing, and dissatisfaction. It is not merely the external world that torments us. Even in moments of solitude, free from external suffering, the inner world of our thoughts becomes a source of anguish. The mind, that great gift of humanity, reveals itself as a double-edged sword. It allows us to reflect and aspire, but it also exposes us to anxiety, despair, and the crushing realization of our own insignificance. The vastness of the universe dwarfs us. The briefness of our lives mocks our aspirations. We are, in Schopenhauer's terms, prisoners of the will, a blind, irrational force that compels all life to perpetuate itself without purpose or end. And what of happiness, that fleeting specter we pursue with such fervor? It is, at best, a temporary reprieve from suffering, a brief moment of equilibrium before the will once again stirs us into restlessness. Happiness is not a goal we can attain, but a mirage that vanishes as we approach. Its pursuit only deepens our misery, for every step forward reveals yet another unmet desire, another source of dissatisfaction. The human condition, then, is one of perpetual dissatisfaction, driven by a will that knows no rest. This will, blind, unreasoning, and relentless, cares nothing for the individual who bears its weight. We are but vehicles for its insatiable demands. The struggle for survival, the pursuit of goals, the relentless craving for more, all are manifestations of this universal force, which Schopenhauer identified as the true nature of existence. And what does the will achieve through its ceaseless striving? Nothing but more striving, more longing, more suffering. When we examine the course of human life, the evidence of this truth is laid bare. In youth, we are filled with desires and aspirations, convinced that fulfillment lies ahead. Yet with age, as the illusions of hope give way to the reality of experience, we come to see that the future we so eagerly awaited is but a repetition of the past, a series of transient pleasures punctuated by pain, loss, and disappointment. Every goal we achieve becomes meaningless the moment it is attained, and every joy we experience is shadowed by the certainty of its eventual end. Even in moments of supposed triumph, suffering finds its way into our lives. The anxiety of maintaining what we have achieved, the fear of losing it, the envy of others who seem to have more, all conspire to keep us in a state of perpetual unrest. And when we do not suffer directly, we are haunted by the suffering of others. To possess empathy is to share in the pain of the world, to feel the weight of countless lives struggling in vain against the tide of existence. Consider the animal kingdom, where life is a brutal contest of survival. Every creature, no matter how small or insignificant, is locked in a battle for existence. Predators hunt their prey in a cycle of violence that never ends. The weak and the injured are left to perish, their suffering a stark reminder of nature's indifference. And we humans, for all our intellect and culture, are not exempt from this cruelty. We, too, are animals driven by the same blind will, our struggles no more meaningful than those of the beasts. Is there, then, no escape from this grim reality? Schopenhauer himself saw only one potential reprieve, the denial of the will. To turn away from the ceaseless striving, to renounce desire and accept the futility of existence, this, he argued, is the only path to a kind of liberation. Yet such renunciation is no easy task. The will is deeply ingrained in us. It is the very essence of our being. To deny it requires a radical transformation of our consciousness, a rejection of everything we hold dear. Art and philosophy offer glimpses of this liberation, moments of transcendence in which we can step outside the relentless march of the will. Through art, we can experience a kind of detachment, a temporary release from the suffering of existence. And through philosophy, we can confront the truths of life and find solace in understanding, if not an escape. Yet, these are fleeting reprieves, not lasting solutions. For most of us, the will remains inescapable, its demands ever-present and unyielding. And so, we return to the question with which we began. Why does the world seem to be an endless arena of suffering? The answer, as Schopenhauer so eloquently articulated, lies in the very nature of existence itself. Life is suffering because the will to live is insatiable, because desire is endless, and because every satisfaction is but a prelude to further longing. To live is to suffer, and to suffer is to exist. If life is suffering, and suffering is inescapable, what then is the purpose of existence? This is the haunting question that lingers in the shadow of Schopenhauer's philosophy. For many, the idea that life has no higher purpose, no ultimate meaning beyond the relentless striving of the will, is too unbearable to contemplate. And yet, to avoid this truth is to live in delusion, clinging to false hopes and illusions that only deepen our misery in the end. Religions and ideologies throughout history have sought to answer this question, to provide a framework of meaning that can soften the harsh realities of life. They promise salvation, enlightenment, or eternal reward, offering an escape from the suffering that defines our existence. But Schopenhauer, ever the pessimist, saw through these promises. He viewed them not as answers but as consolations, distractions from the stark and uncompromising nature of reality. The suffering persists, regardless of the stories we tell ourselves to justify it. Even the pursuit of love, often idealized as the pinnacle of human experience, is not immune to the forces of the will. Love, for Schopenhauer, is not a noble or selfless act, but a biological imperative, a mechanism through which the will perpetuates itself. It is not the individual who chooses love, but the will that chooses through them, driving them to seek partners who will best ensure the survival of the species. And when love fades, as it inevitably does, we are left with the bitter realization that it, too, was but another manifestation of the will's ceaseless striving. This unrelenting pessimism may seem unbearable, and yet there is a kind of dark clarity in Schopenhauer's vision. To see the world as it truly is, stripped of illusion and false hope, is to confront the raw essence of existence. It is a painful truth, but it is also a liberating one, for in acknowledging the futility of the will, we can begin to step outside its grasp, to find moments of peace in the midst of the chaos. Art, for Schopenhauer, is one such refuge. When we immerse ourselves in music, painting, or literature, we are able to transcend the demands of the will, if only for a brief time. In these moments, we are no longer driven by desire or need. We simply exist, as pure subjects contemplating the beauty of the world. Music, in particular, holds a special place in Schopenhauer's philosophy. He described it as a direct expression of the will, a medium through which we can glimpse its nature without being bound by its demands. In music, we find a kind of solace, a momentary release from the suffering of existence. But these moments of transcendence are fleeting. The will eventually reasserts itself, dragging us back into the cycle of desire and suffering. And so we are left with the question, is it possible to truly escape the will, to free ourselves from its relentless grip? For Schopenhauer, the answer lies in the denial of the will, a radical renunciation of desire, ambition, and attachment. This is not a path for the faint of heart, for it requires a complete transformation of our way of being. It is the path of the ascetic, the philosopher, the saint. Yet, for most of us, such a path seems unattainable. We are too deeply entrenched in the world, too bound by the demands of the will. And so we continue to strive, to suffer, to hope in vain for a happiness that will never come. This is the human condition, a tragic and unending struggle that defines our existence. And so, we arrive at the inevitable conclusion. Life is a cycle of striving and suffering, a wheel that turns endlessly, grinding down all who are caught within it. The will to live is an unrelenting force, driving us forward even when we know, deep down, that there is nothing at the end of the journey but death. The pleasures we pursue are fleeting. their sweetness overshadowed by the bitterness of loss and dissatisfaction. Even our highest aspirations, love, success, enlightenment, are mere illusions, tools of the will to perpetuate its existence. Yet, Schopenhauer's philosophy is not devoid of moments of fragile beauty, even if they are shrouded in darkness. He offers us no false comfort, no promise of salvation, but he does offer an unflinching view of reality, a kind of harsh wisdom that allows us to see life as it truly is. In doing so, he invites us to step back from the fray, to observe the world with a quiet detachment that can bring a measure of peace. To deny the will entirely may seem impossible, but to understand its nature is to loosen its grip on us. By recognizing the futility of our desires, we can begin to let go of the endless striving that defines our existence. This does not mean retreating into apathy or despair, but rather finding solace in moments of clarity, in the fleeting reprieves that art, philosophy, and compassion can provide. Compassion, in particular, emerges as a surprising counterpoint to Schopenhauer's otherwise bleak world view. In recognizing the suffering of others, we see a reflection of our own condition. This shared awareness of the human predicament can inspire a sense of solidarity, a bond that transcends the isolating nature of the will. To act with kindness and empathy, even in the face of life's inherent futility, is perhaps the most profound form of resistance to the will's demands. Still, we cannot escape the fact that existence is, at its core, a tragic affair. The world is not a place of justice or order, but a chaotic realm where suffering is woven into the very fabric of life. We may strive to impose meaning on this chaos, to construct systems of belief and purpose, but these are ultimately fragile constructs, unable to withstand the weight of reality. The truth, as Schopenhauer reveals, is that life has no inherent meaning. It is a storm without direction, a fire that burns without purpose. Yet, in confronting this truth, we may find a kind of freedom. To see the world as it truly is, without illusion or false hope, is to embrace a radical honesty that few are willing to face. It is not a comfortable path, but it is a path to authenticity. In the end, Schopenhauer does not tell us how to live. He merely shows us the nature of life and leaves us to draw our own conclusions. As we close this reflection on the eternal darkness of existence, let us consider what it means to live in the face of such profound pessimism. Perhaps it is not about seeking happiness or avoiding suffering, but about finding meaning in the act of living itself. To face life's struggles with courage, to create beauty in a world of chaos, to act with compassion in a sea of suffering, these are the small rebellions that define our humanity. If these thoughts resonate with you, consider continuing this journey of reflection. Dive deeper into the questions that define our existence, and embrace the unflinching truths of philosophy. Subscribe to this channel of thought, where we explore the depths of the human condition and seek solace and understanding, even in the midst of sorrow. Together, let us confront the darkness, not with hope, but with the courage to see clearly.